Joined now by Chris Faber of Canucks Army and Canucks Conversation. And first things, Chris, Grady and I owe you a big thank you for the invites and for your hosting duties Saturday at Greta. We had an absolute blast there at the Canucks watch party.
Yeah, I was a little worried. I was expecting like 40-ish people, and I was thinking, okay, 40 will be good. Chat around, walk through each table. When I heard that we sold over 125 tickets going into the event, I knew that I needed a little bit of liquid courage. So I think that helped with some of the emceeing at the event, but didn't cross the line. I felt like I kept it under control. But it was great to see you guys, see a lot of the listeners and everybody that showed up. It was just it's an event that we're going to do more of for sure. Speaking to the GM there at Greta, the folks there were great. We had all the bartenders in Canucks jerseys. I don't know if you saw the first goal scored by the Vancouver Canucks and the pouring of Pink Whitney. You just had to run up to the bar and the bottles were just being poured into all the open mouths like it was a mother bird feeding their kids. I think it was an incredible night. I had an absolute blast, and to be able to pull that off with our first attempt at an event, just amazing. It was awesome.
It's a fantastic spot, and it works so well for watch parties. And you should see this guy work a room, Blake.
I'm sure. On behalf of Quads and myself, who were working that night, screw all of you.
And how about Quadrelli? He had to work. He stayed away. His dedication to the craft, David Quadrelli.
You didn't say that about me working. Interesting.
And here's the other thing. Chris is making his rink-wide debut on Saturday.
That's right.
With Jeff Patterson for the game against Florida. So looking forward to hearing you with J-Pat unpack the game Saturday.
Yeah, I listened to every single rink-wide last season. I've listened to them all this year. So I feel like I'm just going to slide right into the vibe there with J-Pat on rink-wide. I'm very excited about that. And yeah, I've never really done a post-game type of thing, but like I said, I've heard Jeff do this and heard Blake do this enough on 1040 days back in the day. So I think we'll slide right in. It should be a good time. Very much looking forward to it. I tell you what, all the stuff I've been able to do with Jeff so far this season has been incredible. He's the best in the business. He's the best reporter we have here in Vancouver, and he's been amazing to work with on a bunch of things, and we're happy to have him as a guest once a week on our show as well.
So what will the Canucks record be on that edition of Rink Wide? Will it be 2-3? Will it be 3-2? Will it be something in between? Because they're on a different trajectory all of a sudden, Chris.
Well, we're going to have a lot of storylines after that with the Florida game. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. But yesterday's game was quite a big letdown for the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, after hearing that Rick Tocchet was screaming at his guys at practice and seeing what they did in the first two games, I think you could probably say that second game might have given you somewhat of an indication on what the shot share could end up being moving forward here, and that certain things needed to change. And man, the Canucks, that second period watching them last night, that had to be, I think it gave a lot of Canucks fans flashbacks to what this team's been like in this decade of poor hockey, to lack of better words here. But like that second period was just, everybody felt it, right? All the good vibes disappeared in one period. It felt like in Canucks Nation, and Twitter was lit up last night. Social media was blowing up, and that's the type of thing that you were hoping is not going to continue to happen with this new coaching staff and the way that Rick Tocchet at least speaks about how he operates. Now you need to see how they actually operate, because I thought it was great for him to come out and speak so candidly as he did in the post-game availability. And I hope that all of that rings true with the players, because I don't think this is a coaching staff that's going to take a lot of crap from these guys. And that's exactly the coaching staff that I want for this group of players, that they have a lot of talent, but they just cannot have, 25 to 35 nights a season where they play like they did last night. And that was just a horrible effort through and through. And I think Rick Tocchet said it best in his post-game availability.
He had reason to be concerned. And when he comes out with a quote like, "Who are we to think we are anybody?" Chris, that tells me that there are some guys who are big for their britches with that team, that feel like, oh, I'm a good NHL player, and walk around that way, as opposed to what he's trying to instill. And that is, we may have some good players here, but we are not yet a good team. How long do you think? Like, what do you think is a good barometer to give them a chance to get together and play the sort of style of hockey that Tocchet demands?
Yeah, they've got that roster that you think that management group is happy with. They've got all the staff members in place from Pittsburgh or wherever else they liked their guys from. And I think that this is something that I was very curious to see, like, who's he talking to with the words that he was saying yesterday, like you brought up there. I think, is he talking about the top six forwards, the bottom six forwards, the defense pairings? Like, I think you could say that all of them were in that category of what Rick Tocchet was talking about, of guys thinking they're better than they are or whatever it may be. I think it's going to take some time to get this structure down because I still believe this Vancouver Canucks team, and I think that their strength isn't going to be structure for this season. I still think their strength is going to be relying on good goaltending and scoring a lot of goals. That's just the player types that they have. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think that it's certainly something they're trying to change, and I think it's going to take a while here to get this team fully bought in to the structure, to the system, to the accountability, to the other word that they threw in the Canucks commercial in the summer. Whatever all those things are, you need to build to that point. It's not going to come from a preseason that I don't think they did an excellent job of playing with structure, right? I think that they didn't have great depth scoring throughout the preseason. They had all these type of things that were adding up that, yes, it's not going to come to fruition as soon as the regular season gets going. It sure looked like it did, right? The first 2 games, it was like, oh, wow, they've figured everything out. But I think we all got brought back down to earth a little bit watching them play last night because a lot of little things that Rick Tocchet spoke about of just like, you know, the third forward needing to be higher, the centers needed to be lower on certain plays when they're defending in the neutral zone. Just a lot of little structure things that he spoke about at least yesterday in the post-game availability. Those aren't going to happen immediately. It's going to take some time, and I think that's unfortunate because if you lean away from the structure and the defensive play, they're going to go back to their actual habits of trying to score a lot of goals and rely on Thatcher Demko. And the Canucks have enough skill that they'll win some games like that. But you need to, even in those wins, that's the thing I've liked from talking in the post-game is like, he's not come out and been all smiley, right? He's not making jokes in these post-game availabilities. He's seeing things that need to continue to change. So yes, you're going to pick up some wins as the season goes on, but this is something that not only as the year goes on and the games pass by, you're going to need to continue to build and build and build because
his comments after this one were a continuation from his comments after the Saturday game because he wasn't super pleased. He was 2-0, and yet you can tell he was sort of simmering a little bit after that Edmonton
and like a continuation from his attitude at practice on Tuesday where he's yelling F-bombs and earn your ice time and things like that.
It probably rings more true when you lose like that too, right? Like are there certain players in that room that need a 2-0 loss where you get embarrassed, honestly? Does that ring true with certain players? Because some guys might say, well, we just won 8-1. We just won 4-3. We just beat Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl twice. Like, I think we're doing pretty good. And then you get a game like this. Maybe this brings a lot of people back down to earth and, fan base as well as maybe players as well.
He wasn't quite as frustrated after the game or during the game, but when Elias Pettersson, who of course ends up not being able to practice today, probably because of the shot that he inadvertently got hit by from Tyler Myers, but look at that reaction as Pettersson skates to the bench. He might just be mad that he got hit by the puck, but there seemed to be more. It seems to be like, we're playing like crap. We're not doing X, Y, and Z. And now I got hit by the puck. To me, that's what, he sort of slammed his stick to the ice as he skated off. And you could tell he wasn't super seriously injured. To me, I read more to those frustrations and to those emotions than just I got hit by the puck.
Yeah, I'd say a little bit. I think it was a pretty rough shot there from Tyler Myers, I believe, from the point. So he takes a shot. Obviously, that's not going to be great. It looked like it got him in a pretty bad spot on the foot, too. But I think, the frustration has to build, right? It's like, you're already down, and then you're kind of getting hit while you're down, like literally.
That's right.
With Elias Pettersson there. So I think a lot of it had to add up, and I think he was being frustrated a little bit in that game. We saw the big hit on him from, was it Delorier? Or he had a big hit on him earlier in the game, and it felt like Pettersson, it was one of those games where he kind of trying to make dekes off of his back certain times, right? Like he does get knocked over every little bit. He's definitely gotten a lot better at it throughout this, like his career at this point, but it was one of those games where the puck just wasn't going exactly where he wanted it to go throughout the game. So, he's going to have games like that. He's not perfect. No player is, but maybe a little bit of frustration for him. But I think that I do think still a big majority of it was like, damn, Tyler, you're going to rip that right into my skate here in the game like this, like get it on net or get it around or anything like that. But I think we're going to see a lot of those type of moments, not necessarily getting frustrated, but players getting hit, with shots from the point because they're doing a very good job of actually getting to the net. I think that was something that, though they didn't really get pucks through yesterday, I still think that like there was traffic for a good amount of that game. Maybe not as much as the Edmonton games, but seeing like Brock Besser, I thought did a great job around the net. I know in the disallowed goal, he might have been too tight in the net there, but I've really liked Besser's game, at least through the 3 games of him being able to go to the slot, go to the crease and find out that, hey, like, you can score a lot of goals here. I'm going to hang out here more often than not because I think you can score a lot from this area.
31 shots either blocked or missed though yesterday versus the Penguins who got everything through. So,
Chris, there's word this morning that the Connor Garland trade negotiations are ongoing. David Piniota, the fourth period, saying Columbus, Nashville, Washington, another Eastern Conference team. You wonder whether there's some brokerage involved here because the money at play. Boy, when this first came to light, I thought they may have to. This might be a file that just sits there and languishes because of his salary, because of how many cap tight teams. But it sounds like the Canucks are motivated to move the player on. Do you have hopes of a quick resolution here on Garland?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's certainly. I didn't think this was going to happen in preseason. I didn't think this was going to happen in the offseason. But if teams are starting to see their wingers go down with ACL and MCL tears and they're out for the season, and they really thought that this was a year that they could push, and knowing that the cap is going up quite a bit next season, I do think that there is a possibility for a Connor Garland trade. I don't know if I would bet money on it actually happening because the thing is the Canucks, and I know it's a different management group, but they've not really done a great job of, having a third team come into the mix, which is kind of what Pegs was saying there in his tweet. And if they're able to do that, what are they giving up for that extra cap space that they can gain? And why aren't they just trying with a Chicago or a Nashville, a team that makes a little bit more sense with how their cap structure is? And I think, like I said, the fact that the cap is going up next season is certainly going to help kind of lube the gears here to get Connor Garland trade actually possible. And the thing is, he's playing on the top line again. I think I spoke about this last week with you guys. He's just got to go out there and perform. And for the most part, I think he's been solid enough in that role. I don't think he's stepped up to the plate and hit a home run, but he's getting on base with what he's doing over the past 3 games, at least with those 2 guys. And we'll have to see what happens moving forward. But I think the cap hit really is going to make it difficult to make this an easy 1-for-1. Hey, we get a defenseman, you get Connor Garland. Let's all, shake hands and smile and walk away. It's going to take more than that. So at least to see the report from Pegs today was yes, they kind of need to do this to really make all 3 sides happy. But I guess the worry that I have is for the other 2 sides to be happy, what are the Canucks giving up with Garland? How much cap space do they have to hold on to on their own? And what draft pick are they giving up to get, is it a high level player that they're getting back? Because then it's okay, I guess you can give up a draft pick at that point. But if you're really getting this is our 7th defenseman here, and maybe he's a third pairing guy for you, you shouldn't be giving up much draft capital for that. So
does a guy like Dante Faber make the Canucks demonstrably better?
I think he would help what's going on in the third pairing right now, right? I think that's something that for sure would happen. I also think he's one of these players that with a little bit of a different system and a little bit of a reset could be a guy that's much better than he's been throughout the early parts of his career. He's still at a youngish age that there's a lot of room to grow. So I think with Faber or Andrew Peaks, obviously the other name that's out there in Columbus, if you're getting that type of player who is just such a perfect fit for what this defense core needs, and the perfect fit would be a guy who can play on the top pairing with Quinn Hughes. So I shouldn't say that, but perfect fit for the biggest hole, right? Because I really think the right shot defense on the third pairing has just not been great for the Vancouver Canucks this season. They need an upgrade there. They've already made a move today to kind of make that change with Friedman coming up to the NHL. So if there's a player that just makes so much sense and he's that much better than Mark Friedman, I can see a trade with a pick being given up and some money being, held by a third team. I think that's the best bet because I don't really like the Canucks just kind of having to do this cap retention that they've done over the past couple of years, which is at the time doesn't feel too bad when they make these deals and they're holding on to some cap or buying out a player or these type of things. But then you get to, hey, well, we'd like to sign Elias Pettersson long-term. We can't do that. And all these type of things, they add up quickly. And with some cap flexibility, I almost feel better about that. And I hate saying this as a guy who loves to cover the prospects, but I feel better probably holding on to cap flexibility than draft picks right now.
Okay, tell me everything you know about Mark Friedman.
Well, he fought Brady Tkachuk last year, which I was a little shocked by. But just from watching a little bit, I've only been able to watch maybe 15 minutes of his ice time with Pittsburgh over the past couple of years here. But looks like he's a little bit of a grittier player. I think he's going to fit well with Rick Tocchet the way that he wants his third pairing. Just from some of the stuff that I saw watching him after whistles, I do get a little bit of Kyle Burrows vibes, maybe a little bit more skill there, a little bit better with the puck, but also a little bit not so much of if you touch anybody, I'm ready to drop the gloves like Kyle Burrows was last year for the Canucks. But at least he's going to be a guy where, that massive hit on Elias Pettersson yesterday, not really much of a reaction from the Vancouver Canucks at the time. And I was wondering, okay, when are they going to have this reaction? Noah Juleson had a horrible decision it's nice to see him stick up, but you can't take the extra penalty there. So I'm wondering to see what happens with Friedman, if he's got that level-headedness of being able to understand the situations to step up. And I think it'll be interesting to watch, but I do believe that he's going to be a guy who's going to bring some grit, right? He's going to be a Rick Tocchet third pairing type of defenseman. He's 5'11", so not the biggest size, but he skates decently well. Not a big point producer, but like I said, he's going to be a third pairing guy, probably kill some penalties. And defensively, just kind of looking at some of the vises that I saw on him, like pretty solid defensive analytics through the first 65 games in the NHL for him, which is good news. Not going to bring a lot offensively, like I said, but at least a guy that I think you're going to feel, I don't want to say confident, but at least comfortable with on a third pairing playing on the right side, especially with what, Noah Juleson just hasn't looked like an NHL player.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's, fair enough. They need an upgrade there for sure. Well, they may need upgrades on 2 spots on the right side if Myers continues playing like he did last night. Chris, marvelous stuff. Thank you for this. Have a great debut with Rink Wide on Saturday, and we'll catch up with you next Wednesday.
Well, I appreciate that, Matt, but we're not going to finish here without a prospect of the week.
Right? Exactly. How dare you?
Put myself on E's and O's.
There was a gauntlet laid down, for your last hit, because Hunter Brustevich had gone off to such a great start. Then he had a better week. So what are you going to do with this predicament? Are you going to crown a guy 2 weeks in a row?
Are we allowed repeats?
What are you thinking?
Yeah, you know what? We gotta kind of draw our line in the sand here. We're gonna do it. We're gonna give Hunter Brustevich back-to-back prospect of the week here. He was even better, like you said, second in OHL scoring right now. That's not for defensemen. That's second in OHL scoring out of every player who's playing in the OHL. He had a great week this past week, 3 points. He had Friday night and Sunday. They both were 1 goal and 3 assist outings for Brustevich, who's been excellent. We had him on our show on Monday, actually, a great interview with the kid. And he's just been off to a hell of a start. And like the quote that I loved from him in the conversation that we had on Monday, because I asked him, like, a lot of these games for the Kitchener Rangers, who he's playing for in the OHL, they're getting out of hand. Like, it's like 11-2 and 8-0 and all these things. But Brustevich is getting a lot of his goals and assists very early in the game. And then his ice time is starting to drop down. It's very similar to what we saw with Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes in the 8-1 win against the Oilers. Like, he's putting a lot up early, then he's not really seeing power play time at the end of the game. The quote that I loved the most from him was like, we're just going out there trying to bury teams. And I was like, yes, like, you have a good team. This is a kid who's very confident in his own play. But the other parts that I've liked about Brustevich, not just the points, you put up 6 points in 2 games. That's excellent. That's going to get you prospect of the week almost every week here. But the defensive play has been good. Like, he's a guy who the World Junior Showcase, he showcased for the United States that he's a defensive player. He can kill penalties. He was being on the first unit at the Summer Showcase for the USA. That was all great to see. It's something that he's doing in the OHL as well, killing penalties, threw a massive hit the other day as well. He's a physical player. Like, this guy, for 18 years old, he's got the confidence of a guy who's been around the OHL for like 4 seasons and just knows like the league like the back of his hand. Like, he plays every position well right now, whether it's offensive, defensively, or what I've really liked is like his passes through the neutral zone are just crisp. I think I mentioned it last week with you guys, but his passes didn't look much different than a lot of the defensemen at the NHL training camp. Like, he looked like he has that pop to him. So to know that he's only 18 and growing from here, like, he should be a guy who continues to rip up the OHL. He's on a strong team. And for that reason, he's my player of the week. I do got to give a small shout out to Tom Willander as well, who had a goal and an assist in his debut in the NCAA. But the most important thing about Willander was that he got to move up and play with Lane Hudson in the third period, who was the best defenseman in the NCAA last season, offensively at least. And the fact that his coach was like, well, we need some offense. We're down by a couple. Let's get Willander up playing with Hudson. And they had a very good third period together.
Great
where
stuff.
It felt like 90% of the time was in the offensive zone.
It's funny you mentioned Hudson because there were 16 defensemen brought to the World Junior Showcase this summer for USA Hockey. Only 4 of them were higher draft picks than Hunter Brustevich. Lane Hudson was one, although there's also some pretty good competition on the right side there for that team. Seamus Casey, a second-round pick to New Jersey, and Sam Rinzel, a first-round pick to Chicago, both righties who I suspect will make that team. And the way Bristevich is going, he'll have to make it as well.
A ton of even strength points for Bristevich, by the way, too. So he's performing even off the power play.
I promise I won't forget Prospect of the Week next week, Chris Faber.
No chance.
We'll catch you then.
Absolutely. You betcha, guys. Thanks for having me.
This clip brought to you by Whistler Golf Club. If you have a group of 12 or more, the group organizer plays for free. Inquire now at whistlergolf.com/groups.